In high school, I was in my first real band and we were covering Pearl Jam Alive. But there was a sound in the guitar solo that haunted me. It was a moving texture, something I had never heard in a guitar effect, and I had to solve the puzzle. So I went to a local guitar shop and I asked the guy behind the counter, hey, what effect can I buy to sound like this? And he goes, yeah, it's just a chorus, so buy a chorus pedal. Well, I did, over and over, but it never sounded that way. It was something way more special, way more magical. It turns out it was Univibe. And today, I want to walk you through Univibe 101. I've got something here to open up. Pretty excited about it. It is the Buzztone by Mahoney Guitar Gear. Friend of mine, Robert Keeley, who many of you know, an amazing pedal designer and builder. This guy has been one of his employees for years, and he makes throwbacks to classic vintage circuits. And this one's really fun because I don't actually have the original unit yet. It's the old Jordan Boss Tone. It's a small black unit with two little roller knobs, and you plugged it into your guitar for this killer fuzz tone. It's pretty old and they're hard to get. I'm gonna get one day. So this is a replica of it in a pedal form. So got a red bag here, slide it out. Simple and sweet. It's the Jordan Buzztone replica. The manual says, thanks for your purchase of one of America's true legendary guitar effects from the 60s. It captures the vintage Jordan show sound units in every way. Just in a pedal format. Pretty cool. In 1941, an American company called Leslie created a rotating speaker cabinet. You plug your instrument in, a speaker rotates, and it creates a swooshing, swirling, magnificent modulation effect. The problem is, as good as it sounds, is a little hard to carry around to the gigs, if you know what I mean. Well, in the mid-60s, a company realized this in Japan. They're called Shinai, and they created this, the Uni-Vibe Chorus Vibrato. This was supposed to replicate the Leslie perfectly and put it at the feet of you as a guitar player. And you could throw it in your gig bag. But the problem is, it didn't really do the Leslie sound that well. What it did do was pretty fantastic though. So fantastic that, in fact, this exact unit, a late 60s Uni-Vibe, is what Hendrix had on the stage at Woodstock. And guitar was never the same. So let's talk about how this thing works. This is the inside of a now discontinued JHS Warbletron. But I want you to look right here. There's a light bulb, and it's surrounded by 4 sensors, kind of in a clover leaf arrangement. What happens is the LFO of the Univibe, Warbletron in this case, is activated when the light goes bright to dim and the sensors detect it. Pretty much like when it's night outside, your porch light turns on if you got one of those fancy newfangled auto detection porch lights. Very similar. So the Univibe works in that way, and that creates a very special rise and fall to the LFO, making it really unique. Another thing that's important to know about the Univibe is that it actually is more of a phaser than a chorus. It's modulating by way of knocking your signal in and out of phase. It's not a phaser, it's not a chorus, it's Univibe. That's why it's so confusing. There are a lot of times I'll hear people talk about tracks where someone's using a Univibe and they go, oh, it's just an old Phase 90. No, it's a Univibe, but the Phase 90 almost does it. But almost isn't good enough for me, and I don't think it's good enough for you. Another example is the Boss PH1. Really love this pedal, and there's a couple settings where it nails a Univibe tone. It just lacks some of the feel and the push and swell of that bulb inside. So all this said, the Univibe is a super unique circuit. There's nothing really like it, and I think the most important feature of a Univibe that you need to look for is that it actually includes the light bulb, because a Univibe without that bulb inside is really just a fancy phaser. You don't need a fancy phaser, you need a Univibe. So let me show you my favorite Univibes, modern ones, that replicate that original Shinai very, very well. Before I play the modern versions, you need a control. You need to know what you're listening for. So I'm going to play that original 60s unit. This thing's about $3,000, really hard to find, and if you open it up, there's fairy dust sprinkles and unicorn toenails. just heard is the chorus mode. That's by far the most popular of the two modes, chorus vibrato, because Hendrix used that, and let's face it, most people buying a Uni-Vibe want to sound like Jimi Hendrix. With me, that's not really the case, and I prefer the vibrato mode. I use this mode as an always-on effect lots of times, and it adds a 3D shimmer to everything, and you really only notice it when you turn it off. Vibrato mode, turn the intensity down, and turn the speed down. The first ever Uni-Vibe circuit that I actually plugged into and played for myself was the Danelectro Chicken Salad Vibrato. I bought it because I didn't really know what it was and it was cheap. I just wanted more pedals. And it said vibrato. I wasn't really sure what that was, but when I plugged it in, I realized this was something special. It wasn't a phaser and it wasn't a chorus. It was that magic thing called Uni-Vibe. You probably know Voodoo Labs because they make the most awesome power supply ever, the Pedal Power 2. Well, they also have really good pedals, and one of their classics is the Micro-Vibe. This thing sounds like it should, and it's built like a tank. You might have seen the episode where I'm shopping for gear in the Guitar Sanctuary in Dallas. Well, that day I came home with a Jam Pedals Retrovibe. I'd met these guys before, played several of their other pedals, and did not realize they made a Uni-Vibe. Well, it's amazing, and you should buy it for the paint job alone. The Dunlop Rotovibe. One of my employees here, a good friend, John, about 10 years ago, he brought one of these to my house. He had it on his board. I plugged into it and it blew me away because it had the speed control on an expression. And then I later found out this is what Pearl Jam actually used. So I came face to face with that question that had lurked in my head so many years before, and it sounds exceptional. You got vibrato and chorus mode here. Can't say enough about it. It's a great pedal. It's good and heavy. Heavy pedals are good. Sometimes you need a heavy pedal. Too many light pedals in the world. The Electro-Harmonix Good Vibes Modulator. Chorus and vibrato Uni-Vibe, has the bulb in it. Really great price point. And honestly, kind of blew me away how good it sounds. I'll admit it, Electro-Harmonix made a really good Uni-Vibe and the price point is on point. So the Depths by my friends over at Earthquaker Devices. If you like tweaking a pedal constantly, if you like more knobs than you actually need, this is the Uni-Vibe for you. It's super adjustable, all kinds of controls, and it does a lot more than the standard Uni-Vibe. But at its heart, it has the bulb in it, it's fantastic, and it does what it should if you're looking for this sound. I could never, ever talk about modern Uni-Vibe pedals without talking about Mike Fuller's Fulltone company, Deja Vibe Mini and the MDV-1. He has consistently brought us amazing Uni-Vibes over the years, and if you're looking for one, these are easy to find in most stores in the bigger cities. Just go try one, plug in, and this is going to be a very faithful replication of the real thing. A little harder to find, but something that has to be mentioned are the Sweet Sound Electronics Uni-Vibes. This is the Ultra Vibe, and this is the Mojo Vibe. Bob Sweet, the creator and builder of these, passed away years ago to cancer, but his family has continued to make these. These original units can be found on eBay, and you can find the newer units from time to time. I can't recommend these enough because the attention to detail with how they're made is just fantastic. And pros have loved these for years and years, so if you find one, you really can't go wrong. This record time is brought to you by Jimi Hendrix Rainbow Bridge soundtrack. This is kind of a bizarre, more unknown Hendrix collection of recordings, and I think they repressed it recently so you can find it. There's a particular track I want to highlight, and it's called Hear My Train A-Comin'. Now, you may have heard Hendrix do this, but on this particular album, there's a rendition of it where there's a lengthy jam session, and you get to hear Hendrix really lean into the Uni-Vibe. And I don't think there's anyone in history that played to the emotion and the feeling of this effect as he did, and this track really highlights it. Another honorable mention is the way that John Mayer uses Uni-Vibe in Gravity. You can hear that on the Trio record or Continuum. It's the kind of thing where if he turned it off, the riff wouldn't be as good, but with it on, you almost don't notice it. So I have to throw that out there if you've never noticed it. So go listen and check that out, and listen to this record and check it out. What I'd like for you to do in the comments is put your favorite song that features Uni-Vibe. I want to hear about it, I want to talk about it, so do that right now. That's it for today's episode. I'm really excited because I know that a lot of you guys did not understand Uni-Vibe. You know, it comes off a little fringy, maybe it's an effect you don't really think you need to have or really care about. And today, maybe what I shed some light on will get you interested. So go out there, get some Uni-Vibes, put them in your rigs, and I promise you if you do, you'll love your guitar a little bit more. And then there's some of you guys who are huge Uni-Vibe fans. You know more than I do, and I would love to hear what your favorite Uni-Vibe is. I'd also love to hear the story of how you first used it. You kind of heard mine, so I want to hear yours. If you like this episode, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon to get notifications of future episodes. And until next time, have a wonderful day.